Imagine this. You're renovating your home in the early 1960s. You knock down a wall in your basement. Behind it, there's not soil, there's a dark passage. You grab a flashlight and step inside. Days later, you realize you haven't just found a room. You've discovered an entire underground city, carved into the earth, stretching down over 80 meters. 18 stories beneath your feet, where tens of thousands of people once lived, prayed, and survived. This is not a myth. This is Derinkuyu. The discovery. In 1963, a local resident in the Cappadocia region of Turkey was doing what many homeowners do, renovating. But when he broke through a wall in his basement, he didn't find another room. He found a passage he'd never seen before. Intrigued, he kept digging, and what he uncovered would change history. Beneath his modest home lay an entrance to one of the largest underground cities ever discovered. By 1965, archaeologists had begun excavating the site. What they found was staggering. An entire city carved into soft volcanic rock, extending to a depth of approximately 85 meters. Today, 8 levels are open to visitors, but researchers believe the city originally had between 12 and 20 levels. And here's the thing, what we can see today is less than 10% of the total area. Scale and structure. Let that sink in. Derinkuyu spans an area of about 7 square kilometers on the surface, but its true size lies beneath. The total area of the underground complex is estimated to be around 4.5 square kilometers, roughly the size of 1,100 football fields. The city was built in layers, each level connected by narrow tunnels. These aren't just random caves, they are carefully planned living spaces, each designed for a specific purpose. The upper levels were reserved for livestock. Think about the logic here. Animals needed to be moved in and out easily. Their waste needed to be managed. Keeping them closer to the surface made practical sense. Deeper down, you'll find the living quarters, rooms carved out for families, communal kitchens, storage areas, and even a school. Who built it? So who carved this massive city out of solid rock? The answer isn't simple. The region has been home to countless civilizations over thousands of years. Archaeological evidence suggests the earliest work may date back to the Bronze Age, around 1750 BCE. According to classical theories, the Hittites were among the first major powers in Anatolia, establishing their empire around 1800 BCE. But even before them, there were the Hatti, an indigenous people who laid the foundations of civilization in this region. The Hatti built cities, developed social structures, and may have been the ones who first struck their tools into the volcanic tuff of Cappadocia. They discovered something crucial. This rock was soft enough to carve with basic tools, but hard enough to hold its shape once exposed to air. It was the perfect building material. How was it built? To understand how such a structure was possible, we need to look at the geology of Cappadocia. The region's landscape was shaped by volcanic eruptions millions of years ago. The resulting rock, volcanic tuff, has a unique property. It's relatively soft when first exposed, making it easy to carve, but it hardens over time when in contact with air. Here's a simple way to think about it. If you take a sample of this rock and measure how sound waves travel through it, you'll find that it's less dense than many other stones. That means it's easier to work with. Ancient builders didn't have power tools or modern machinery, but they didn't need them. With bronze tools and later iron, they could carve out rooms, tunnels, and entire cities. But here's the challenge. Carving soft rock is one thing. Building a stable, multi-level underground city is another. Modern engineers would approach this as reverse engineering. When you build a skyscraper, you start from the ground and go up. When you build an underground city, you start from the top and go down. but every step must be calculated. One mistake could collapse the entire system. The builders of Derinkuyu solved this by working in stages. They excavated the upper levels first, reinforcing the structure as they went deeper. And what about all that rock they removed? Estimates suggest they excavated roughly 500,000 tons of material. To put that in perspective, if you piled all that rock on top of itself, it would reach the height of a 7-story building. Engineering marvels. Now, let's talk about the engineering solutions that made this city livable. First, ventilation. How do you provide fresh air to thousands of people living dozens of meters underground? The answer lies in the ventilation shafts that run through the city. Researchers have calculated that a population of around 30,000 people would need approximately 1.2 million cubic meters of fresh air per hour. To meet that need, you'd need about 50 ventilation shafts. When archaeologists surveyed Derinkuyu, they found exactly 52 shafts. It's as if the ancient engineers had done the math centuries before modern science confirmed it. The most impressive of these shafts is the main well, which extends 55 meters down and doubles as a water source. But the builders didn't stop there. Knowing that an enemy could poison a main water source, they also carved independent wells on lower levels, completely sealed off from the surface. Second, communication. Spread across multiple levels, how did residents stay in touch? They carved small holes, about 25 centimeters in diameter, between rooms and levels. Through these, they could speak to one another, pass messages, and coordinate. Think of it as a Stone Age intercom system. Third, lighting. Constant torches would have consumed oxygen and created smoke. So they carved niches into the walls, filled them with oil from flax seeds, and used them as fixed lamps. This created a system of consistent lighting without the need to carry flames everywhere. Fourth, temperature control. One of the most remarkable features of Derinkuyu is its stable internal climate. At depths below 3 meters, the temperature remains constant year-round, around 13 to 15 degrees Celsius. In summer, it's cool. In winter, it's warm. The volcanic rock acts as a natural insulator, making the city comfortable regardless of the season. Life in the dark. What was daily life like for the people who lived here? For the most part, life in Derinkuyu wasn't constant. People lived on the surface during peaceful times, farming the land and tending to their animals. When danger came, whether from invading armies, raiders, or persecution, they would retreat underground. When they did, they brought their livestock with them, settling them on the upper levels. They stored grain in silos carved into the walls. They pressed grapes into wine in the winery areas you can still see today. They cooked together in communal kitchens, using tandir ovens carved into the floors. To manage smoke, they created chimneys that vented to the surface, but they were careful to cook only at night, when smoke would be less visible to enemies. Families lived in small rooms, each with niches for storage and sleeping platforms carved from the rock. They didn't decorate these spaces. This wasn't their home. It was their refuge. Their only goal was survival. Defensive design. The entire city was designed with one priority: defense. Every aspect of its architecture reflects a deep concern for security. The corridors are deliberately narrow, sometimes only 1 meter wide or less. A soldier in armor would struggle to move through them quickly. In a few places, the passages become so low that you have to crouch. Every turn slows down an invader. Then there are the rolling stone doors, massive discs of rock weighing between 200 and 500 kilograms. These doors could only be opened from the inside. They had a small hole in the center, allowing defenders to see who was on the other side, and if necessary, to attack with spears or arrows. When an enemy entered, defenders would roll these doors into place, sealing off entire sections of the city. The city was also built with a layered defense system. To reach the lower levels, an invader would have to pass through multiple gates, each one requiring time and effort to breach. While they struggled, residents could escape through hidden tunnels or fall back to deeper levels. And there were escape tunnels, long, winding passages that connected Derinkuyu to other underground cities in the region. The most famous of these is a 7-kilometer tunnel linking Derinkuyu to Kaymaklı, another massive underground complex. Think about that. Beneath the surface of Cappadocia, there is a network of connected cities, forming what some researchers call an underground nation. The later inhabitants. While the earliest levels of Derinkuyu date back to the Bronze Age, the city's most famous residents arrived much later. In the 2nd century CE, the Roman Empire was expanding its control across Anatolia. For early Christians, this was a dangerous time. Christianity was banned throughout the empire. Followers faced persecution, torture, and death. Estimates suggest that in the first 3 centuries of Christianity, the Roman Empire executed over 2 million Christians. Many fled to Cappadocia, where they found an existing underground city, one that had been carved centuries earlier. They moved in, expanded it, and made it their own. They reinforced the entrances. They added churches, chapels, and a missionary school. On the 7th level, you can still find a church carved in the shape of a cross, with a baptistry where new converts were initiated. This wasn't just a hiding place, it was a sanctuary. For these early Christians, Derinkuyu was more than a refuge from persecution. It was a place where their faith could survive. When you walk through those tunnels today, you can still see crosses carved into the walls, silent witnesses to centuries of devotion. They didn't stop there. The school on the 2nd level was used to train missionaries who would later go out and spread Christianity across the region. Even in hiding, they were thinking about the future. Why underground? So why did so many different peoples across so many centuries choose to live underground? One theory points to geology. Cappadocia's volcanic tuff is uniquely suited for underground construction. It's soft enough to carve, yet strong enough to support weight. The natural insulation makes it comfortable year-round. And the region is filled with similar rock formations. It's no accident that more than 200 underground cities have been discovered in the area. But geology alone doesn't explain the complexity of Derinkuyu. You don't carve a city for 20,000 people just because the rock is soft. You do it because you need to survive. The earliest phases of construction may have been driven by warfare. In the Bronze Age, Anatolia was a land of competing city-states. In 1800 BCE, King Anitta of Kusara began expanding his territory through conquest. His armies swept through the region, burning cities and displacing populations. The people of Cappadocia had reason to be afraid. Some researchers believe that the Hatti, the region's original inhabitants, began carving Derinkuyu as a refuge from these invasions. Later, during the Hittite period, the region continued to face threats. Wars with Egypt, internal conflicts, and shifting alliances made life unpredictable. The underground city remained a safe haven. By the Roman era, the threat had changed but was no less deadly. For centuries, Derinkuyu served as a hiding place for those who could not practice their faith openly. Some have speculated about other threats, plagues, natural disasters, even volcanic eruptions. Mount Erciyes, a massive volcano, is only about 60 kilometers away. It was still active during ancient times, with its last major eruption occurring around 250 BCE. While the lava flows themselves never reached Derinkuyu, the ash and psychological impact may have been enough to drive people underground. But perhaps the simplest explanation is also the most compelling. In a land that has been a crossroads of civilizations for millennia, the people of Cappadocia developed a unique architectural tradition. They carved their homes, their churches, and their entire cities out of the rock around them. Living underground wasn't a last resort. It was a logical choice, given the materials and the threats they faced. The Unseen City, today Derinkuyu, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and one of Turkey's most visited attractions. But what visitors see is only a fraction of what exists. Less than 10% of the city has been excavated. The lower levels, those below the 8th floor, remain largely unexplored. Researchers believe there are more levels waiting to be discovered. And beyond Derinkuyu itself, the underground network extends for kilometers, connecting to other cities like Kaymaklı, Özkonak, and Maziköy. In the triangle formed by Kayseri, Niğde, and Nevşehir, archaeologists have identified more than 200 underground cities. Some are small, with only 2 or 3 levels. Others may rival Derinkuyu in size. The tunnels that connect them suggest a level of planning and coordination that challenges our assumptions about ancient societies. Reflections. Walking through Derinkuyu today, you can't help but feel the weight of history. The tunnels are narrow, the ceilings low. In some places, you have to bend nearly double to pass. The air is cool and still. You're surrounded by walls that were carved by hand thousands of years ago. In the communal kitchen, you can see the tandir ovens where families cook together. In the winery, you can trace the channels where grape juice once flowed. In the missionary school, you can imagine students gathered around a stone table, learning in the flicker of oil lamps. And everywhere, on the walls, in the corners, you see traces of those who came before. Not just the ancient builders, but modern visitors as well. Some leave trash. Some carve their names into stone that has stood for millennia. It's a reminder that these spaces are not just artifacts, they are living monuments, entrusted to us by the people who built them. The last residents of Derinkuyu were Cappadocian Greeks, who left in the 1920s during the population exchange between Turkey and Greece. Since then, the city has been silent, except for the footsteps of visitors from around the world. Conclusion. Derinkuyu is more than an underground city. It's a testament to human ingenuity, resilience, and the will to survive. For thousands of years, different peoples, Hatti, Hittites, Romans, Christians, looked at the same soft rock and saw not just stone, but safety. They carved homes, schools, churches, and entire civilizations beneath the earth. But even after all these years, the city still holds secrets. How far down does it go? How many more levels await discovery? What other cities are connected to it by those ancient tunnels? Perhaps one day we will know. For now, Derinkuyu stands as a reminder that beneath our feet, sometimes just beneath the floor of an ordinary house, there are worlds we have yet to discover. What do you think is the biggest secret still hidden in Derinkuyu? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you want to support the channel, please drop a like and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more of these amazing historical stories to life. See you all in the next one.